Welcome to the Secret Keepers podcast with your host, Kareen Zutleger. Join us as we uncover the hidden thoughts, stories, and moments that help bring light to the healing power of truth and examine how silence can affect us mentally, physically, and spiritually. We'll also share profound stories, interviews, and transformative narratives to help release ourselves from the hidden and step into healing towards inner peace, joy, and fulfillment. Now, here's your healing strategist and host, Kareen.
Welcome to the Secret Keepers podcast. Today I have Fallon Jordan as my guest, and I am going to let her tell you a little bit about herself.
Yay! Thank you. I am a healer, a teacher, a coach, and I just love all things healing. And so I kind of met Corinne through the Brain Health Network. And so that in itself was just an absolute amazing journey. I started working at the front desk as a doctor assistant at Amen Clinics, which is, if you haven't heard of them before, they're world leader in mental health and psychiatry treatment because they do brain imaging. And so I slowly or quickly, however you want to look at it, climbed the corporate ladder there while healing my own brain. And so a lot of the things that I teach in terms of mental health and neurology and brain health are linked to what I learned there. And at the end of the day, like your experience is like the most powerful. But because I got to, and I say this every time, and I don't know why these are the words that are being used, but I was literally in the trenches with these patients who had tried everything. And so like in my own teachings and my courses, like I literally am citing case studies of people that I hugged with, I cried with, like, and I think that that's what's really powerful because so many of us love the science, but then so many of us also just trust our intuition. And I like to teach in a model where we're talking about the peer-reviewed science, but at the same time, like I believe healing is always possible for anyone with anything. And anyone who's told you differently is just part of that old program where, they're not practicing what they preach, right? Like most of us believe in a higher
Mhm.
power. And if we meet people who we're guided to learn from and work with, it's for a reason. And it's because something in us, probably part of our 98% of our dormant DNA that is waiting to be turned on for miracle frequency, we found someone to help us with one of those key codes. And so I did a lot of brain teachings and coaching for many years, I think about 13 years. And then I started doing Reiki. And then I had my own secret, my own repressed memories, all of both sides of the family lineage, like trauma and all the things that were going on there, lots of pedophilia and addiction that came after I healed my brain. So I tell people, I'm like, I don't even know where I would be right now if I didn't at least heal like my brain as a physical organ that was damaged from things that were not my fault, like toxins and hormonal issues and concussions. Because then I had this whole other road I had to go through on this spiritual journey. And that's where it was focusing a lot more on the physical body, the energy body, the psychic body. And so if you go to my website, fallonjordan.com, I say it's a fun portal because like you're just going to go in all these different directions because I'm passionate about everything and I'm passionate about everyone having the right resources, whether it's
Yeah.
for someone who's pregnant or someone who is 90 or anywhere in the middle.
It's so amazing that, yeah, definitely feel like we're kindred spirits and on this path of like really helping people heal. And the way we heal is we bring our secrets to light because when they're stuffed down inside of us, they just fester around and they wreak havoc on all aspects of our being. So thank you so much for being here. And we touched you touched just briefly that you do have a secret and touched briefly on it. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about your secret and how it affected you in the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual ways.
Totally. And I also just want to share before I jump into that paying attention to the intuitive hits about the secrets, because I remember growing up and hearing my great grandmother had this affair with this very wealthy man who she worked for, and she was 15 and she had my grandmother. And my grandmother, of course, like didn't know anything about the father. This was just like a story that was in the family that nobody talked about. But whatever he brought was like and I know I'm not the example, but like most people in my family are like very pale redheads. And he brought this specific gene where everyone is pale redheads now versus like what we thought we had for genes, which was more like French, which, I tend to have more of those characteristics because I can get really, really tan in the summer. Always thought that was weird. Loved my Nana. My Nana and I were very deeply connected. She was schizophrenic. I'm surprised that I was left alone with her for how mentally ill she was. We were always connected. And I know that she's one of my guides now because
Sure.
her secret was just the start, because God only knows what her childhood was like. I heard it was very
Sure.
horrible. So this is my great
Mm.
grandmother, and then my grandmother, and then my mother, and then me. And science shows that the trauma DNA in our body, our physical human body, can be from up to 20 generations back, depending on where you learn the science.
Sure.
So that's a
Wow.
very important piece. So having these intuitive little nudges, like always kind of wondering what makes me different, what makes me click. Thankfully, I got to see it in a brain scan. Yay me, very fortunate. And I
Yeah.
got to keep seeing my brain get healthier, but there was just something missing. And so I was doing identity-oriented psychotrauma, which not a lot of people have heard of. And I'm grateful that I was given the opportunity. And so I
Yeah.
started working with someone, and my big core issue that I went to him, I'm like, I don't know why I have this problem. Like, I'm a magnet for like men who don't want me, and like I
Mm.
can't stop drinking, and like, I mean, I can feel, and if you're a brain person, like you can probably see this, like I can feel the click in my
Mm.
brain after a certain number of drinks where I'm like, I'm gonna get him to sleep with me later, or
Mm.
like I'm gonna get him to date me, or I'm gonna get him to fall in love with me. Like I can literally feel it in my brain for my whole life since as early as I can remember. So I'm running this program, right?
Yeah.
This men sex program. My therapist knew the first appointment that we had, what happened to me, how it happened, when it happened, who my perpetrator was, and was patient enough to work with me for 7 years. And like I was telling Corinne and anyone from our mutual contacts, I'm a very open person, but my body is not. And that's the difference between what's going on in your physical body versus in your mind. And my body just was not ready to let me know. And so I did a lot of fun inner work for many years. And
Mm.
then I finally was shown, this is the experience that you had, and this is exactly why you've struggled in this area of your life. And I'll never forget calling my long-term psychic at this time. Pretty much anytime I called her, I was hysterically crying. It was an emergency. And she answers the phone, and like I still like get emotional thinking about it. And she's like, "You figured it out, didn't you?" And I said,
Oh boy.
she's like, "How does that feel?" And I said, "It feels good to know that I might not be continuously calling you crying over some drama with a guy," because that was always the thing
Mhm.
that I was going to her for. And so definitely a huge fan of trauma work, EMDR, brain
Yeah.
spotting, IFS, hypnotherapy, identity oriented psychotrauma. But oxytocin is an extremely helpful thing that you can do. So you can get oxytocin from long hugs. You get
Mhm.
oxytocin from anytime you're bonding with your partner, but you can also take it as a physical medication. And so I had one of my friends and mentors prescribe it for me, because
Mhm.
as if your oxytocin is healthy, that means your cortisol is healthy. So, that expression, like if someone's grumpy, like they need to get laid,
Yeah.
that's literally because they're not getting cortisol, or they have a
Yeah.
stick up their ass, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so that was a huge piece. But then that's when I started going deep into the energy work, which was also a part of my heart I needed to crack open, because, I'm from a small city in Maine. It's not like there's like tons of people. But I had a lot of shame. Like I was known for
Yeah.
like being the drunk slut, and there was a lot of
Mhm.
shame there. And when my friend got certified as a Reiki master and she offered to train me, I was like, not just even the Reiki stuff, but like, you have to do this because I need to heal this stuff that I have with the town that I'm from and the reputation that I had and my parents. And I also had the reputation that my parents were crazy and very controlling. And so that was like, I don't like to say turning on necessarily like spiritual gifts because they're already inside of you. They just need to be lifted gently and lovingly. But
Yes.
like, it was like bam, bam, bam. And it's like, okay, this is why I had this experience. And this is why I did my healing in this very fun direction. Because a lot of
Yeah.
people I work with, they've done so much of the deep spiritual work, but like their loved one is struggling with dementia or their kid is ADHD and like nothing seems to be working holistic that they've tried. And so for me to have this the journey that I've had and the order of things that have happened to me is just really really interesting and really cool. And so I am always grateful to share my story because it's a little interesting.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing it. There's so many things, right? So I find myself going, oh gosh, what do I want to ask her next? Because you kind of covered, right? Like what the transformation process, the healing process looked like for you. Using the energy release and going to different therapies and healing your brain and all of the things, right? I think sometimes, right? Well, people are looking for the magic pill, right? We're just going to take one pill and that pill is going to solve everything. And that's not the case, right? Because the body does remember. The body keeps it stored in there. People would often say to me, "Well, with it just kids and kids forget, right? They forget quickly." And I just would be shake my head, and it's like they might consciously forget, but their subconscious is going to remember, and their bodies are definitely going to remember. And it's going to come out later. It's going to come out as some sort of issue. Children don't just have tantrums for no reason. Like
Exactly.
there's something going on there, or they look at the mom and it's like, oh, you don't know how to make your child behave, and it's like, there's something deeper there, right? And it could be, you know, there's something deeper in their soul. So for you, and you were working with the Amen clinics, and then you had this awakening, and now you're on a whole, I don't want to say a whole different path, because you very much incorporate all of the brain with everything that you do, which is amazing. And we are like sisters about that, because I love brain science. I'm like a total brain nerd, because I think that, right, when we understand, first of all, this body is one amazing mechanism. That's all I know. Like the more I learn, the more I'm just in complete and utter awe of the work of our creator, because it's like, so much went into this.
I
Like,
mean, why do you think in every sci-fi, use that word term loosely, they're always the most fascinated by the humans?
yeah.
Always the most fascinated by the humans. And why do you think, God and gods, like, mythology and things like that came to Earth when they could just be up there and be in total bliss? Because they want to come here
Mhm.
and experience different things. And a lot of times it's good food, good wine, and fucking.
Oh,
So there, we have this body for a reason. And I can also just be a testament to a very powerful example of how powerful the body is when you start doing when you do affirmations and you do mirror work. Wonderful,
mhm.
fantastic, love that for you. But when you big clearing for somebody. Woo!
I was just gonna, and I'm like, whoa,
Holy cannoli.
yeah.
So excited for whoever that was. Maybe it's me, I don't know. But what was I saying?
We're talking about the coming here, and they want to experience all the things, and
It'll come back to me, it's fine.
okay.
But yeah, just there's so many things that we don't even understand, like glimpse of being a human. And this is the funny thing about the whole AI conversation. Um, AI will never be us because AI is using us as a blueprint, and you can never copy something just right. And especially if you're choosing and opting into continuously changing by continuously upgrading your DNA, continuously upgrading your frequency, making sure that you're getting the most divine light codes, which the divine light codes come from the sun. It's not rocket science, and they come from Mother Earth. And if you're like
Mm,
me and you really love plants and animals, extra added bonus
yes.
because, if anyone's seen me, they know I'm obsessed with animals, and it's because their purpose is to take care of us and to help us.
Yeah. Yeah. My husband and I will laugh because, we have a pretty big lot and but we live in a subdivision, and we, every tree we have, we planted. And I walk around and I talk to them all and I encourage them all to grow, and they are amazing. They're doing amazing, right? And so
Oh,
much like you, I mean, I love plants and animals. I if it was up to me, we would have another dog, but my husband is not ready to go there. um but right, you get energy and your companionship and connection. And I love to put my feet in the ground and walk around and allow that energy to come up into my body, because that is therapeutic. I love the sun, I love the water. And even, it was 15 below yesterday, and I thought about bundling up. And then I looked, and the weather things like, it's too dangerous to go outside. And I'm like, dang it. Because with the sun out, it's misleading. But such valid points, right? Just we need those connections to those energy sources as well in order to wake us up. And what I find is, as a society, we're sitting in front of the screens for so much time. We're indoors, right? I did a thing on, comfortable, right? We're comfortable and things are easy. We want to push the easy button or the microwave button. We don't even have to leave our houses. You can get groceries sent to your house. You can have your food delivered to your house. You don't even have to get up out of your chair. And that is not how this body was, what it was created for. It was created to move. It needs to move. It needs to be exposed to the air outside, and to the soil and to the sun. And um yeah, so
yeah.
that's
And
such
that's
a
all
valid
done.
point.
I believe that's all done on purpose, on design to from the dark energy. Like that's just
Hmm.
how I feel. And I remember the thing I was going to share that's super powerful. So doing your affirmations, doing your mirror work is great.
Oh yes.
But when you start tapping and doing it, and I mean, you stay on one chakra for 5 minutes
Hmm.
doing it, complete goal changer.
Okay. Now, do you recommend a specific one, or is it like, should I do my I am statements, affirmations, and tap on, like, the third eye or the crown, or am I doing heart chakra? Or I like to tap on my chest.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite spots to do
Yeah.
it, because
Me
that whole
too.
heart throat area. But
Well, and
um,
especially when you put your hand here and then I'm talking, so I'm hearing my own vibration. But if I go, and I keep doing
in your
that, like
throat.
that's
Hmm.
like a huge, huge upgrade. So wherever you're led, 100%. But so one of my mentors gave me her secret script. If you guys know anything about secret scripts, you know, Oprah and all these crazy people are like, I have this script that I say every morning to manifest my dreams. I'm like, I don't want to go near
Okay.
that shit because I know you're into some dark shit. But I do have one from a very sacred, beautiful person that I do give my clients. And it's because it's resetting every single chakra, including your soul star and your earth star. And it's literally giving you a new body. And this is what's wild is I this is only like a year ago. I need to celebrate. I was working with somebody. We were doing past life, parallel life stuff, and everything I did with her was also this tapping, resetting chakra stuff. And she's so sweet. She's been doing this a long time. She emails me. She's like, Fallon, so I keep getting this message that like anything you're doing in your solar plexus isn't gonna work very well because your solar plexus is so damaged. And I was like, well, duh. Like I kind of knew that, but like what's the solution? And she's like, yeah, it's very interesting, but like most people, they have, you know, we have 7 chakras, right? And then the one
Hmm.
above here and below us. So you would think, if let's say I've lived, I don't know, let's say I've lived 500 lifetimes. There's a pretty good chance that like some of the chakras are going to have more trauma than others. But she said, I've never seen someone where almost all of your trauma and all of your parallel lives is to your solar plexus. And I
Oh.
was like, well, that explains why I've been obsessed with the sun my whole life, because I literally need the solar. And so
Hmm.
I actually went through a 30-day intensive program with her. And I literally got like a new solar plexus because my energy body, that part of my energy body, was literally so damaged that I had to get a new one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's amazing.
Yeah. I love it.
Right,
I
that
love
you
my new
can do
solar
that,
plexus.
right? That you can do that. And, for, some of the audience that may not be familiar with chakras, but you can find all that on the internet. And you
Yes.
can also find it by connecting with Fallon because, there's a lot of information there and it's a lot of really good information. And so I'm really curious about, how you create joy and fulfillment now in your life.
Oh, I love this question so much. So it's really just about actually doing things that I like and like not caring what other people think. And age old tale, right? Like being grateful and being
Mhm.
present. But when I get to drink my like super, super clean water in the morning and I charge my water and I say, water, like I love you so much. And I'm so grateful that
Mhm.
my body and my brain are so much water. And I'm going to give you exactly what you want. And it's going to be so good. And then I
Mhm.
go to my coffee or my ceremonial cacao and I'm like, oh my gosh, you were so amazing. And I have a fun little thing that I say to my coffee every morning. No matter what this day is to become, give me the best outcome. And so
Mm.
I have
I
like a
love
little
that.
ceremony. And then just honestly, just like a lot of the little things that we do. Like right now, I'm at this period of my life where I am commuting. I'm going to a school and helping some ADHD dyslexic kids. And I just am enjoying my podcast or my quiet time, and I'm enjoying my car. And my car is also like one of my little spirit guides. So I like to talk to her and hang out with her. It's just
I
going
love
like,
it.
and this is why when I don't just do like one off like calls, unless it's just like health related, but like an actual like change my life call is, as you can imagine, going to be very long with me. I need to walk through every single thing you do in a general day, and I need to walk through every single thought that you're having so I understand what it's like. Because as someone who like loves the brain and loves people choosing joy, you have to actually do the things that make you happy. And there's so much that we can do to optimize our brain and our subconscious through our precious, precious eyeballs. So that's
Mm.
why I love helping people declutter and reorganize things, because, if I woke up and I didn't have my trinkets that I have on my nightstand, like I wouldn't feel joy. And when I go out of town to my friend's house or I stay at a hotel, like I bring my crystals, I bring my
Yeah.
pendulums, I bring my notebook so that when I have an amazing dream and it reminds me to reach out to somebody, I can do that. So it's really
Oh, yes.
creating a life where you're giving yourself endless opportunities to be in joy simply because you're doing the things that you like to do. And I know that that's easier said than done. And like there's a lot of not so fun decisions sometimes that we need to make. But when you allow yourself to choose what lights you up and like what's a full body yes, because if it's not a full body yes, then it's a no.
No,
There's
right.
there's no wiggle room.
Mhm.
And so definitely being outside is like my highest joy. Going to a
Yeah.
bookstore is like one of my favorite things to do. And I love writing too. I love reading. I love writing. Love being with animals. My friend came over, totally forgot to tell us that they got a new puppy. And I was like, what? And
Kiss
then
me?
my new niece came over, who's 5 weeks. I'm like, I'm
Oh,
literally
precious.
hanging out with the cutest, most beautiful, precious baby and a puppy. Like, this is the life
Yeah.
now.
There's bliss. That's bliss, right?
Yeah.
So if you were to look at everything up until this point, because you're still a very young gal, so
How
this
young do you
point
think I am?
in your 30s.
Yeah, 39 and a half.
Okay. um, but you've gained so much wisdom and you've had that ability to see the gift in
Mm.
all of the situations. Um, can you kind of like give us one golden nugget? Like you're like, this is the thing that really came from me bringing my secret to light, and I really hold this one close to my heart. What would that
Mm.
be?
So I think being a parent is like the most important, powerful thing in the entire world. And I never thought that I could do it. And I also never thought that I would get married. And then when the repressed memories came back and I started doing that work, the first big shift I noticed was being married and having kids would actually not be terrifying. It would be really beautiful because I'm
Mm,
now equipped to do that. And so definitely the joy play like I get from just like wanting to be around kids and loving kids, but it was a choice. Like I chose to have that thought and I chose to not let it just be this delusional thought. I chose this possibility. And it's about allowing yourself to choose a different possibility. You can go in a
yes.
million different directions in your life. And some of these decisions are really big, but they're really not. Every decision you make is a decision. A decision of, am I gonna like cook myself this beautiful, nutritious meal, or am I just gonna order in pizza?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with either of those if you are going into the intention of what your desire is. If your desire is to spend more time with your family, not in the kitchen slavering over your chicken piccata, which takes 45 minutes, then that's
Yeah.
different than like, you know what? Like, I actually love the pizza place that we get our money from, we get our pizza from. I love giving them my money. I love that they deliver, they don't charge us. We're going to do that and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Often my husband and I will go out to eat because it's like this gives us good face time, right? Because otherwise,
Yeah.
it's the time spent cooking and cleaning up, and we try not to do it like too many times a week, but at least once a week we do go out. That's his turn for the meal, right? But he does help with the other meals. But I so find that relatable, and the fact that we do get to decide. Everything is our decision, right? We do have free will. We can choose to go left, we can choose to go right, we can choose to go up, we can choose to go down. So thank you.
Mhm.
And thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for all of the information you shared today. I wish that people could have heard us before we hit record, because they're just so much. So we will definitely be having Fallon back because there's just so much more wisdom to be gleaned from her. So I know you had mentioned earlier, but can you please tell the audience again how they can find you?
Yes, so fallonjordan.com, FALLONJORDAN.com. All my links are there. I'm very active on social media. I have self-paced courses, especially if you are curious about. So I have the ADD course, the dementia prevention course, which are like absolute gold, my precious babies. But if you're interested in the overlap between Reiki and chakras with brain health, I have a masterclass that goes over that, which I think is really good. And that's just under the courses tab on my website. I have lots of freebies. My YouTube is filled with information, or you can do, the Spotify, Apple for my podcast. But the fun thing is if you resonate with me, like I'm always talking about a bunch of different stuff. So I never really know
Yeah.
what the topic's going to be, which is fun. And again, that's what it's about. It's about being open to new experiences and expecting the best. Like if that's like the mantra that you could start embodying full time, like that would be what I recommend for sure.
Absolutely. And yes, I'm all about having all the experiences.
It's
So
what we're here for.
that's
It's
right. I agree. I agree. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, and we will talk again soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining the Secret Keepers podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please give us a like and follow so we can invite you back. And if you just want more, visit CorrineZuleger.com. Remember, you're not alone.